Good afternoon, boys and girls of the internet and various other places. Apologies for the lack of a video, but I recently changed my monitor setup from a triple head system to a triple head system with a custom stand, and I have not been asked to plug the stand back, the camera thing, brain no work, back in. So I'm just going to ramble on with some thoughts that are in my head. Conical fermenters. I'm in a dilemma. I want one. I don't need one. I've got a bucket and it works fine. But I want one. And the two things I've been looking at are the SS brew bucket and the fast ferment, and I can see kind of pros and cons to both. The brew bucket, much easier to clean from a physical perspective, nice big wide open top, no dealing with kind of stupid brushes and stuff, straight lines, easy to clean. More fun picking clean materials, and it doesn't have what I'm going to dub the crap tap, as the fast ferment has. And the only other really niggle I've got on over it is the fact it doesn't have half-inch fittings, which everything else I've got so far does. Which, since I'm using camlock fittings, I think that is the smallest they come in, is potentially a minor issue for me. I did see BLF 1983's review of that, and it looks quite impressive. The fast ferment, it's got some plus points as well. I say you've got the crap tap at the bottom, as I'm going to call it, because it amuses me. Which, for yeast harvesting, could also be a fairly big boon. It's also got a thermo well, which is a nice thing to have, but it's also got that round bulbous top, which reminds me of cleaning demijohns out, which is why I was keen to get off of demijohns and move to a fermenting bucket in the first place, is trying to clean the top of them. Can be just a complete pain in the arse. I mean, you can get brushes for it, but it's still just a pain in the arse. A lot of this kind of train of thought was prompted by the fact that I did recently slightly blow up my single vessel fermenting mashing system, doing brew in a bag, and it's basically a converted urn. It worked well, because I ran upstairs to check a recipe and forgot to leave any water in when I turned it on, and funny enough the element exploded, and took out half the fuses in the house with it. I've since replaced it with an Electrum brewing bucket from Brew UK, which works very well actually, and I was not sure in it because they themselves say it wasn't great for a boil, but I got around that the same way I did with the urn, which was basically when you're going for the boil, turn the temperature controller off and plug the element straight into the mains. It takes a while to get to a boil, but it gets a good boil going, so no problems with that at all. The only modifications I'm going to make to it really, I mean I've changed the tap to some half-inch fittings and a ball valve with a camlock quick release system on it. I'm going to set it up for whirlpooling, and I'm going to set it up as well for starts of an hour recirculation while I'm brewing, just because it'll just get nice clearer brews. Not that I'm terribly fussed about that in the slightest, but just would be nice to have. I did also know with the first couple of brews I had on it where I wasn't recirculating because I hadn't had the fittings in place yet. It was fine for the most part, but there was starting to get a bit of scorching in the element. It hasn't really come through much in the beer. In fact, I'm drinking the last Hefeweizen I brewed with it right now, which did come out stronger than expected, but that was because I made a slight cock up while brewing it. But yeah, otherwise quite pleased with that. It was about £100, not a bad bit of kit really. So yeah, I'm not decided which to get because both will fit in the tiny space I have available for it. Because it's more of a space constraints wise, it's about the same width as the bucket I'm using at the minute and the 3 demijohns I used to use before, but it's just taller, and height is one thing I do have going, so it's not a problem. The next ponderance I've got is more of a random thought. I've been playing around with kind of yeast growing and just generally harvesting since I kind of got into this whole brewing thing. And one of the things I played around with, I've actually got some frozen yeast with gelatin. There's quite a good page detailing ways to do it, and I'll put a link to that in the description. But I'm just pondering the idea of, rather than harvesting yeast after you've done the beer, why not harvest the yeast at the starter point? In fact, why not even just actually grow it for the purposes of, taking a vial of yeast, grow it, get 3 or 4 equivalent vials of yeast off of it, use one of them, freeze the rest, keep it going. And I've been giving some thought in the best ways to do this, and the one thing that comes up is, bizarrely enough, filtration. And looking around, you can get 10-inch reusable water filters, completely food safe, for maybe a tenner. And the more research is done on this, down to things like the actual size of filter, and most of them say If you're filtering out everything that's not yeast, 5 microns fine. If you're filtering out yeast, 1 micron. So my train of thought is grow your starter, get it in a fully recirculating system after that, pump, water filter housing, standard, off-the-shelf item, reusable 10-inch filter in there, 1 micron, run it through half a dozen times, and you basically take the wort out, so you've got completely, clean yeast, no additional flavours. Even if you're using DME, you're going to get some degree of flavour to it, even if it's only a tiny amount, and just for the sake of being completely anal, I think it would be nice to take it out, just to get some completely plain water in, bit of gelatin, freeze it, and run from there. And then you should have some fairly solid, I mean, it's still going to be second generation yeast technically, but it should be fairly usable. And given that it costs £6 a whack for a tube of yeast, you've just saved yourself about 4 or 5 tubes. I've worked out, and a whole system can be put together for maybe 40-50 quid. So it's one of those things that, okay, it might take 6 months to pay for itself, but it potentially would pay for itself if it worked. Getting the yeast out of the filter should just be a case of washing the filter back. In fact, I'm wondering if you can even just reverse the flow of water through the filter, so instead of pushing water through the filter, you push it back there and effectively get the yeast out that way, but that would require a bit more investigation. The other option is just cleaning it in water. Good clean sanitary water, so you're not going to infect the yeast, and then go from there. And vials are cheap, 50ml vials. I've got a bunch of them I picked up for maybe like a tenner for 10 of them. I forget the exact figure, but they were cheap as bloody anything. And I've been using those for most of my kind of harvesting and freezing experiments. So yeah, that's it really. That's the ramblings in my mind at the moment. So I shall bid you all adieu, all 5 of you. So many subscribers.